Hello, folks. Welcome to Beyond the Scorecard podcast, a show where we discuss golf, business, life, current events, and our expertise in the field. I'm Joey Criscitello, the digital marketing and social media manager of HJGT. And joining me, as always, my co-host, we have our executive director and founder, Mario Conte. Mario?
Good morning, Joey. I'm certainly excited about this show. We bring on a legend in the space of junior golf and the junior golf ranking space, Mac Thayer. I grew up playing the whole shebang when I was playing junior golf, but 30 years ago. It's like full circle moment for me to bring on Mac here. I'm excited and just wanted to welcome Mac Thayer, owner and founder of Junior Golf Scoreboard.
Good morning, guys.
So, Mac, why don't you kind of start off by telling us a little bit, background about yourself, about how you got the Junior Golf Scoreboard started, and we'll begin there.
Thanks, Mario. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Junior Golf Scoreboard has been at it now for more than 25 years. And way back when we started, the only ranking system was basically on paper with Golf Week. And they were doing a point system, and my son actually was fortunate enough to be ranked on that. And I didn't really pay much attention to it. We were deeply involved in the sport. Fortunately, he got a scholarship and went to Northwestern, and et cetera, et cetera. I was looking around for something that would work in the golf space. I had a couple other projects that went nowhere, but this one seemed to have a little traction, particularly since we started right when the internet started, which was right after Al Gore invented it. Then we had something to work on, and I figured selling dog food over the internet wasn't exactly going to excite me very much. So a couple of people and I sat down and discussed, why don't we try to bring the junior golf sports into one space? For a couple of reasons. One was to have parents find tournaments, because back in the day when you wanted to play in a tournament, you better know somebody who knew a pro shop who could mail you a paper application into which you could stick a check and mail it back and hope that it got there in time. So we figured there's a better way to do it. And we figured if we built something in one place, people would come, kind of like Field of Dreams. And it turned out to be pretty well. We started out in a closet. I mean, literally, we started in a utility closet, sublet it from a real estate broker with a table, a chair, and a dial-up telephone. So that's how it all started. And there was no large database of tournaments that people could access. USGA had a paper book, which went, goodbye in about a couple of years. And so we basically began to build a tournament database. And from that, everything else grew from there, including collecting results, doing rankings, providing other services and content to the junior golf space. And that's how it started. Wasn't really sure how big it was going to get. Didn't know, but we kind of stuck to our knitting, and doing it just the right way. We felt the right way. And we're pretty proud of what we've accomplished so far. My background personally is kind of eclectic. I've been in all kinds of different businesses, everything from retail to technology companies to broadcasting to, it's all weird how I got here. But here we are in 2025. The seniors are now gone because we dropped them in August 15th. We have 80 articles about college recruiting. We have a whole bunch of different stuff. So, that's kind of the history.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always going to be indebted to the Junior Golf Scoreboard for my playing days in 1997, 98, when I was in Chicago searching for junior golf events, near my neighborhood, and really even places that I traveled. It's the greatest thing about Junior Golf Scoreboard is that it brings all the junior golf events together. You could search where events are, and then as we dig deeper into the rankings here. I'd like to, really discuss, how the ranking is made up. You got three categories. You got individual scoring, you've got strength of field, and you got strength of fitness. And over the last 18 years, Mac, we've answered a ton of questions from juniors and parents as you have. And there's still, maybe some misconceptions of how the rankings work, or, how kids vault up the leaderboard, and speak a little bit for the kids that may not really know the categories, and just kind of, maybe discuss what those three pillars are made up of.
I'd be glad to. I think one of the things that you're right about misconceptions, this is a sport, obviously, because it's a youth sport. You're going to have turnover, right? You're going to lose your seniors every year. They're going to go on to college and not play junior golf anymore. And you're going to have these families coming in who are 10, 11, 12, 13 years old and playing the sport. So there's a good churn always going on every year. And as a result, I got a call from the state of Washington the other day from a dad whose son was like 12, and he'd never heard of the scoreboard until he talked to another parent. So he called here and just wanted to talk about the scoreboard, just like we are now. So the three factors you have in the rankings include scoring differential, the strength of field, and finishes. We really believe that, and it's as simple as possible, get the ball in the hole. All right. And I don't know how many times you've probably said it, Mario. We've all said it, play better, get the ball in the hole. And it's going to take care of an awful lot of stuff. I mean, scoring and getting, and what you do on the golf course, which the junior player has completely in control of themselves. You know, they don't have to worry. There's a course, go play it and see how well you can do. And that's 65% of the weighting of the rankings. And it's important against, I think we chose to do the rating of the course because that is the universal common denominator for everybody. Just like the USGA handicap system is the universal, common denominator. Is how hard is the course you're playing and how did you do against it. So we kind of adopted. We don't do handicaps. Our system has nothing to do with handicaps, but we do have this common base denominator, which everybody kind of agrees is a good way to do it. And then strength of field is kicks in there for about 25%. That's not something the player can control. They don't know who's going to show up at the tournament, but we take a look at the top half of the finishers. So if there's 30 players, we look at the kids who finish 1 through 15 because usually the best players finish in the top half of the field. And we look at their scoring differentials and we say, okay, how good was that field compared to another field? And then we also have a little factor in there for size of field. And the final part is finishes, which is winning, top 5, top 10, that kind of a number. People want to see that. People want to be able to show that. It's 10%. It doesn't really mathematically make that much of a big deal. And the biggest reason with finishes is how much is a finish worth? It's very hard to kind of mathematically quantify that. So finishes are there. We're showing them. We're counting them, but it's only 10%. So that is kind of how the rankings work. It's been tweaked over the years, a little bit here, a little bit there. Obviously, people know about our course condition adjustment algorithm that we use now have for the last couple of years. And but that's there you are.
Yeah. And, Mac, I remember calling you literally 20 years ago when I was piecing together the Hurricane Junior Golf Tour. And one thing that we really agreed on, and you said it in the last few minutes, was just get the ball in the hole and go play and go and compete. I love that. That's what we're all about at the Hurricane Tours is just inclusion. Just go out there, play. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the most important part of the ranking is you against the golf course. It's 65%. And, I get 10, 11, 12-year-old that ask us all the time, I got to be able to play in the biggest events. I got to go compete against the biggest fields. No, you don't. You need to go out there, get experience, play the golf course, and you play well on tough golf courses. Like everything else is going to take care of itself. And that's what kids need to be focusing on. And I'm a huge advocate for that. Just go out and play. So I love the Junior Golf Scoreboard rankings, and I think it's very well balanced.
It's funny you say this thing about go out and play. Most of my tough love to parents, I have a philosophy, and I always, if I get a dad on the phone who's kind of wound up, or a mom who's kind of wound up, and they talk about how do I get better tournaments so I can improve my ranking, I go, that's not how that works. And it's mostly the parents I have to talk to. And I don't mind talking to the parents. I try to make friends when they call and, get them on there. And you're absolutely right, Mario. Just trying to, don't beat the golf course. Everything will take care of itself. And, and so when a parent is kind of wound up about getting into better tournaments and the better players always get into the better tournaments, I said, well, that's true in baseball too. The better AAA players get to go to the major leagues, and they do it by hitting the ball and being a good baseball player. So I said, can I have permission to give you tough love? Is my first sentence to them. And that allows me to say, now listen here, Dad. So I do it with a little bit of a laugh, and they get it. But you're right. This trying to get into better tournaments, the higher you go into better tournaments, the more invitational they are. So it's not like you can walk, drive up in your car and go play. I mean, that's not the way it works. And the second of all is, are you ready? Are you seriously ready? I mean, if you're beating everybody in your age group at these tournaments constantly and you get good scoring, then yeah, maybe. But if you're finishing ninth and shooting 78, 79, you're not ready. So.
Yeah, and junior golf, just like any other sport, it's a progression, right? I get parents, that whether I'm at the golf course playing with my kids or just out and about, like they'll ask me, hey, when's your next hurricane event, and how do I get my kid in? And he's 7, 8 years old. I said, listen, there's a pillar of success here in junior golf, and you don't just jump into a league that you're not ready to play. You need to start at the developmental level, get used to playing 9-hole events, winning, getting top fives, feeling the pressure. Then you start moving your way up. And too many kids are just jumping in. Then we see it on the Hurricane Tour. And then what happens is they don't want to play anymore. They're embarrassed. They feel terrible. Their confidence goes down. And then you lose kids, playing junior golf. So that's definitely not what we want. And we want, kids playing at the proper level. And, one of the big things that, one of the other questions I have is that, we get questions all the time, what are college coaches looking for, right? And how do I, ensure my kid gets to play at the college level, whether it's D1, D2, D3. And really, coaches are looking for consistency. They're looking for how you carry yourself on and off the golf course. And are you coachable? So, Mac, if you just maybe tell me, obviously you've been doing this for a long time. What are some things that you hear from college coaches that, they're looking for in juniors as they're recruiting them?
Mario, if you think about it, with all this, how do I get in these tournaments? What do I do? How do I get better? This, that, and the other thing. If I wasn't around, or the scoreboard wasn't around, or the other services weren't around, and you gave a college coach two things to look at, not academics, two things to look at to even get a coach's attention. Those two things would be what? It'd be scoring and yardage, right? That's it. There's, the coach may not be able to see how the kid carries himself on the golf course. It cannot see how they treat other people or their parents. They don't see, but to get the coaches, the first layer that the coach is going to look at is scores and yardage. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's it. That's how the sport's played. So if that's all in your hands. I mean, it's, that's where they start. And then if the coach gets interested in a player, they may start tracking them automatically, which they can do on the scoreboard, and get an email every time the kid plays. I mean, there might be some references that they can call. The kid might have a resume or something like that has references on it. And then they dig a little deeper. But they're also not just looking at one player. If you take class of 2027, most Division I coaches who are proactive at recruiting, and there are coaches who are not, they're proactive at recruiting, they're going to have maybe as many as 10 possible recruits that they're looking at for their class. And usually the coaches are recruiting by grad year. That's something I constantly have to educate the parents about because they're all worried about the overall ranking. And I'm constantly telling parents, no, class rank, because that's the way coaches recruit by year. And they're recruiting a couple of kids each year. Now, that may be changing a little bit with the squad size limit, but that's what coaches are looking for. The first thing they look for is scoring and yardage. That's the first thing they look for. Then, obviously, they have to be an academic fit. All right, that's another thing. They have to be an academic fit for the school. So I would say, if the coach has not seen a player actually play, then you're going to have, that's the core of what they're looking at.
I really like to, focus on the younger divisions here for a second. And, we get a lot of 10, 11, 12-year-olds that get all this hearsay information from the so-called 17 and 18-year-old expert parents that have gone through it all and sometimes given a lot of bad information. And, I was at my son's football game this weekend and he's 10 years old. And, the PA announcer came on and said, hey, listen, parents, your kids are not getting a Division I scholarship today. Just go out, have fun, play. And that stuck with me. It's because just go out and play, have fun, get experience, learn how to compete, learn how to win. And guess what? Everything takes care of itself after that. So
absolutely. Mario, you hit it right on the head. I do the exact same speech with parents of 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds. Have fun. Let's make this fun. Have the kid so he can, laugh at himself a little bit, hopefully, over some, silly thing that happened. but make it fun. If it's not fun, he or she is not going anywhere.
At 9, 10, and 11, you got to enjoy just going out there with your friends, hanging out, being around the sport, enjoying it. And if there's so much pressure on a 10-year-old to go out and try to play these elevated tournaments and try to, get up the rankings, like these kids are going to get burnt out. I've seen it over and over again. 10 and 11-year-olds, they peak. And then all of a sudden at 17, 18, they're not interested in playing anymore. They want to go out and do something else. So all that work and time you put in for 6, 7 years grinding, now at the end, it may not come to fruition.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely the right philosophy. It's what I preach when I get parents of young players coming on, and you're right. We're on the same page totally, Mario.
As far as, one of the things that I also want to clear up is that, we get tons and tons. Probably the most common question we get is, how do you guys, come up with your ratings and your rankings for the yardages you played? And I know, Mac, we've gone back and forth on this several times. And I think this is an important topic for people to understand is that, we'll go out and play a golf course in New York. That's the white tees, for example. And on the white tee scorecard, it says 6,500. Well, we'll put out custom yardages. As you know, we set up our own golf courses to play how we need them to play, and we'll play it at 6,700. Well, a lot of parents think just because the color white tees, we're submitting 6,500, and they're not getting credit for those extra 200 yards. And I know, Mac, you guys adjust the course ratings based on where the tours play. So maybe shed some light on that, because it's part of the 65% ranking and the individual scoring. And some players sometimes feel cheated when the optical illusion is that we're playing 6,500 when you're really not.
So every golf course is rated, obviously, right? So we're going off the ratings in the USGA system or wherever they are. And then you guys tell us what you play it, right? You send it to us. You say, all right, we played that 6,700. Okay. So the first thing we do is we find the nearest set of tees, right? So if the nearest set of tees are the white tees is 6,500, then that we add a 200-yard factor to the rating. Now that's right off the USGA Appendix 13 yardage adjustment system. We're not sticking our finger in the air and guessing at this. This is just numbers. So that gives us the adjusted base rating, right, for that competition at that distance, right? So that's how the rating is done. And by the way, the set of tees could be shorter. So that's all common published information. Anybody can check that. So that's how that starts. And if there's no course and condition adjustment, which is, I'm sure, one of the questions, that's the rating we use. Now, sometimes I'm not saying this is true of Hurricane, but sometimes those scorecards are all set up in advance, right, by somebody in the office who keys them into whatever software program it is. And the tournament director goes, or the course goes and sets the course up entirely different and doesn't tell anybody, right? They don't report it exact. So we end up using the office yardage, and we get a call from a parent saying they didn't play that at the tournament. They played a lot longer, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. It could be a typo easily. But, out of all 3,000 tournaments, 3,600 tournaments we follow, if you think about it, and there's 2 age groups at least in each tournament, that's 7,000 tournaments we're doing. We sometimes screw up. I mean, we do. We have fat fingers like anybody else on a keyboard. And so that can happen. And that's when we get a call from you or a call from your team or a call from a parent, and we double check it and we fix it. So there you go.
Yeah, no, and you guys do a great job of that. I mean, I have, one of my team members, basically, she basically checks the rankings every week just to ensure accuracy. Again, just like you said, sometimes there's human error. And one thing I will commend the Junior Golf Scoreboard on, and I think, Mac, I was in your ear so much about this for so many years that I think you finally did it, was you were transparent about the course ratings. You now put them on each event. I think, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, they weren't on there, but now parents can go on there and see what the course was rated at. So let's just say you did play more yardage or even less yardage, you'll see that course adjustment rating on there. And it is important. Again, if you're playing, 6,500 yards on the scorecard and it says, the course is rated at 71 and you're playing 67, you should get that extra bump. And Junior Golf Scoreboard has been transparent on that and has listed those on each event.
Well, it's credibility. I mean, when we're talking about how strict we are about the common denominator, everybody's common denominator has to be done the same way. But you're right. And hey, I tell every single parent, parents call here and go, oh, I'm so sorry to call. I don't mean to complain. And I go, listen, if you're angry, let me hear why you're angry. If you're not, then that's fine too. Let's talk about what the issue is. And I said, by the way, we love proofreaders. And trust me, there are any number of proofreaders out there who are proofreading our stuff. And that's good. And we like it when people do that. And I always end my phone call with this. So hopefully you found this friendly enough here at the scoreboard that if you're sitting around in a restaurant eating a blooming onion and some parent is going off, tell them that we're kind of nice guys. You can call us, you can call us. Please do call us.
I will say that is an amazing, attribute that you guys have is, I can remember as long as, from day one, I call you guys, I email you, I get a response immediately. And you guys you have personally been amazing in that. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for Junior Golf Scoreboard from my playing days to, the hurricane days. And really the last question I have for you, Mac, is that, I'm on your website and you guys got a lot of great things, a lot of great information on your website. So young parents should be on your website at least once a week, in my opinion. And, you see that there's some enhanced profile options. There's some, there's some things that you can get above and beyond services you guys offer. So maybe, tell the folks, what you can do on the Junior Golf Scoreboard website that can benefit them in their junior ranking.
Well, I think there's a few things. And first, there's a section that I need to update, but it's called Playing the Game, and there's some videos on there with Rich Brazo, and that's kind of nice. The going to college part, where we have articles written by 3 or 4 people who are in the business of mentoring families, and there's like 60 or 80 articles on there about the recruiting process and how it works. Each article takes 2 minutes to read. It's not like, it's not like hard work, but, as you begin to get more into the recruiting sphere, reading some of those articles, and those are all free. Then there's no charge for that stuff. Then, of course, we have the rankings, and nobody has to pay any money to be ranked. Everybody is, ranked once they get 4 tournaments and 8 rounds within the last 365 days. So, but if you want to dig deeper into the rankings and see where you rank in your state and this, and that's a ranking subscription. And something new we've added to that is that if you have a ranking subscription and you key in your junior golfer's name in your profile page of the subscription, then when you sign in, you can click on the events number, of course, and make sure we have all the tournaments that you played in. But now there's a green box that appears. And if you click on the events number, you get to see the player performance dashboard, which is what coaches see, and you get to see all the charts and graphs that coaches see. So, and that has been very well received, very well received. So that's another thing. Then we have the golf and academic resume, which we have a record number of right now that are active. It's amazing how many families don't do it. They don't take the time to do it. I'm just puzzled by that. But we have that as well. So for parents, it's ranking subscription, and it's for the golf and academic resume would be the 2 main products that we have for junior golf families.
Wonderful. Lots of good information there. And for anybody out there that's never been to the site, it's juniorgolfscoreboard.com. Mac, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. You've been an inspiration to me for all this time, and I can't thank you enough for what you've done for the Junior Golf Scoreboard. I don't know if I'd have a career without you. So thank you very much for everything you've done for junior golf, and we'll continue to do so. Appreciate all of your contributions.
Well, thank you, Mario, and thank you for the Hurricane Tour. It has a very important niche place in the sport. Not a niche; it's a pretty big place considering how many tournaments you have. But it's a great place to get started in competitive junior golf and learning to get the ball in the hole.
Mac, thank you so much for those kind words. And again, I really appreciate you mentoring my boss, because then I wouldn't have a job by proxy. So I also really appreciate that. Just to throw it out, Mac, do you have any plugs that you'd like to advertise at the moment?
We're pretty proud of what we do and what we have done. And I think the biggest plug I want to say is, sometimes there's a hole. in our system. Sometimes it's whatever. And I get any number of contributions from supposed experts. And that's fine, because we always want to know how we're doing. So if I was to put a plug out there to anybody who's listening, call us. Absolutely call us. We want to know how we're doing.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mac. Just to wrap things up again, we are on track to hit 31,000 on Instagram. Our influencer program is alive and thriving. You can join that program too by reaching out to us via Instagram. Also, our 2026 HJGT membership is on the horizon, so keep your eye out for that. Mario, anything to add in the latest news?
No, everything was covered this week, and again, thank you to our guest Mac Thayer, and I hope everyone has a great week.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, we greatly appreciate you listening into this episode of Beyond the Scorecard with Mario and Joey and Mac. Please follow us on all social medias. You can find us under Hurricane Junior Golf Tour, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, you name it. Follow Junior Golf Scoreboard on Instagram at Junior Golf Scoreboard. Fairways, greens, and everything in between. See you next time on Beyond the Scorecard.